Okay, so I first off, welcome to Embodiment 101 and how it can help you heal from trauma or anxiety. Basically, anything that you're feeling right now that you're realizing is um, taking up a lot of your mental space or capacity. Embodiment is a really great way to come home to yourself and to your body. So I'm going to start by sharing a little bit about how I got into this work. So I am a wife, I am a mom of 3, I am a therapist, and I'm a recovering people pleaser and trauma resolver. And I say trauma resolver because I have been through my own trauma, and my own healing journey is what got me to this place of feeling more authentic than I've ever felt before, and also healing my trauma, my anxiety, and my panic attacks. I used to have debilitating panic attacks. And I say heal in the sense that I'm okay with it now. I have them much lesser. I haven't had a panic attack in like a couple of years. But I have a better relationship with it. So, life in general is traumatizing. So I have a better relationship with the unknown. And a lot of us fear the unknown, and the anxiety that comes from that was a lot of what caused trauma in me. So these are my boys, and this is my little girl Ruby, and I loved that she put the life jacket on upside down. It was like, we do that a lot in life. My story as well that I probably should touch on is when my oldest, I went into therapy, and I said to my therapist, like, I need help with my anxiety around my fear of losing one of my kids. And I said, it all started when my oldest, right here, the tall one in the middle, his name's Waylon, he was almost 2 years old. And we were visiting the church that I grew up in, and my parents were there, and he ran away from me. And so I was running after him, and he turns this corner in the hall. And I turned to the corner shortly after him, and he wasn't there. So I thought, oh, wow, he must have ran really fast. And I got to make sure he didn't go into the street or the parking lot. So I ran to the parking lot, and I didn't see him. And then I ran to the other parking lot, and I didn't see him. And then the panic set in, and I froze. And I should probably say that I had panic attacks before that. So I think my body was just really primed to not be able to handle that amount of stress, and I froze. And so at that time, I had told my parents I need help looking for him. So everybody that was left over at the church was looking for him. They didn't know him that well. So a woman went to the front of the church by the street and asked these boys that were playing out there, have you seen this little boy? And they said they saw someone take him. Well, it was a horrible case of mistaken identity. They had seen another man take his son, but they told her that, and she came running back to me in my frozen state and said, they saw a man pick him up and take him. We called 911. They had the helicopter ready. And for about, it felt like a lifetime, but it was probably maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I lived as if I had lost my son, that a man was, took him. Until someone said, Chrissy, we see his feet behind this copy room door. And so I crawled to the door. I couldn't even stand. I crawled to the door, and it had locked behind him. And so they opened it. That first corner he turned, he went into this room, and it locked. And he was just standing in there. And I just held him, and I cried. And then we took him home, and it was like, I didn't know what to do with all of what just happened, with all of the emotions. It was like, almost like the thing was to say, oh, funny, haha, we got him back, So anything I felt adversely was like, I shouldn't feel that way because I got my son back. But my body was wrecked. And it wasn't until 2 years later that I actually would seek help for post-traumatic stress disorder. Because in those 5 minutes, my body changed. And I knew it. I knew it at the time. Now looking back, I'm like, yep, that was the time my entire biology changed as a person. But I became kind of like the shell of a person. I was not who I wanted to be. I was white knuckling life. I acquired fear of flying, which I had never had before. I didn't trust anybody with my kids, so I could never really relax. And I started to have night terrors when this little one, Zeke in the middle, was a baby. So that's when I was like, you know what? I am going to get help. And I started my healing journey, which has led me to learning more about embodiment. And now I can honestly say that I don't feel that in my body. I don't feel like the other shoe is going to fall. And I am so happy for that, which is why I'm so passionate about teaching this. So let's go to the next one. Okay, so what is trauma? The definition of it, and do I have it? Yes, unfortunately, we all have it. It is an extraordinary stressful event that shatters your sense of security, making you feel helpless in a dangerous world. So basically what I just shared about in those 5 minutes, I was helpless. It was too stressful for my nervous system to even handle. And it left me with psychological trauma that I struggled with, like the emotions and the memories. And it was like, to some people, it became a joke, like, oh, funny, you lost your kid, but then, you found him. And I was like, it wasn't a joke to me. And it was extremely hurtful when things like that were said. And then the anxiety that grew around it, like generalized anxiety just happened. So that is the result of trauma. And it can also leave you feeling numb and disconnected. So a lot of times my clients will say, I don't have many memories from childhood. And that's also a symptom of trauma, because we disassociate. Our bodies know how to get us through to survival. And so we will disassociate from the stressful event. So yes, we all have trauma. It can even be a life-threatening event to someone else that you've witnessed or watched. A lot of times, like just even watching the news is traumatic, because if you're in that state of kind of feeling unsettled, you will then feel like that is happening to you. You will feel as if the trauma is happening to you. Your body doesn't know the difference. So I also want to explain Gabor Mate, one of my favorite authors and doctors that researches trauma, talks a lot about this, that there's big T traumas and little t traumas. Big T traumas are the things that never should have happened to you, like a car accident or abuse. And little t traumas are things that you should have gotten but didn't. So that could be just proper attunement to a caregiver or understanding. So all of those things that you should have gotten but didn't, those all are little traumas. So yeah, unfortunately, we all have trauma, but we get to resolve it. We're going to get there. Okay. If I figure out how to get this thing working. Oh, there it is. Oh yeah, that was my, excuse me, I have something in my throat today. So yeah, everybody has trauma, and I already shared you mine. Also, I didn't even touch on body image, but growing up in the 90s and probably the early 2000s, there was a whole lot of messaging around our bodies as women that took us out of our bodies. The body was either bad or something that made men stumble if you were a part of any religious group. And there really wasn't body inclusivity. So that I do view for women as a trauma. And in marriage, there's traumas, right? Because we bring into our marriage unhealed things. And in the best marriages, we help each other heal, but sometimes we wound each other more. So that is an example of some of the trauma that I endured. Also, you can just call trauma the crap that happens to you. I just laid it out again. One-time events, injuries, accidents, or it could be ongoing relentless stress, like living in a crime-ridden neighborhood or battling a life-threatening illness or experiencing traumatic events repeatedly, like bullying. That's a huge one for kids that we don't often look at as trauma, but it is. And the third one is also really interesting. If you've ever had like a surgery as a child or had to do something routinely that was uncomfortable as a child medically that might have saved your life, but the body doesn't know the difference. So the body will still feel that or hold that in as trauma if it's not released. My son had to have a bariatric where he had to drink this thing when he was 4, and to get this x-ray of his stomach. And it was extremely traumatic because as a child, he didn't want to do that. And they had to have these men come and hold him down to get the x-ray. And I knew he was really traumatized by that because he couldn't protect himself. He was held down, obviously for good reason. But I think maybe I'm more traumatized than him. However, after that, I did some play therapy with him, and I said, okay, yeah, I know you were angry. Those doctors that held you down, because he would talk about the doctors and the, in a bad way. And obviously I told him doctors save our lives, but let's get that out. What would you wish you could have done with your body when they were holding you down? And so we used cars, and he was like, I'd just slam this car into that person and slam it. And so I let him do that because that's clearly what his body wanted to do to move on and resolve that trauma. So our bodies are always showing up for us to resolve trauma. If you don't resolve it, it will keep showing up. That's exactly what happened to me with my trauma around losing a child. I kept losing him, like not really, but in parks, like he would hide in the tube and I would freak out and have a panic attack. And so kind of that's where the jokes came in of like, oh, haha, you always lose your kid. But I'm like, it makes so much sense to me now because my body was always trying to help me see that I needed to resolve this and to process and release it. So this is what happens in the body when we're traumatized. Our prefrontal cortex right here goes offline. This is our rational thinking. So when I said I froze, I literally froze, and I had guilt after the fact when my prefrontal cortex, rational mind, went back online, because my rational mind said, why couldn't you have just figured out that he was in the closet? Why couldn't you have just gone and looked for him yourself and calmed down? But my body was literally not able to do that because this part of my brain went offline and my reptilian brain went online. And that brain is the I'm going to save your life, fight or flight or freeze. And that's part of the sympathetic nervous system. So parasympathetic is when we call it rest and digest, when you can eat and digest. When you're in panic mode, you don't care about eating. So when the sympathetic nervous system is activated, you have accelerated heart rate, all of these things happen. Sweating, goosebumps, I'm saying it wrong, perspiration, your blood pressure raises because it's literally gearing your body to save your life. Because if you're getting chased by a tiger, you don't need to think. All you need to do is run. So your body literally goes into that mode of operating. And then the parasympathetic, once I said earlier, it goes back online afterwards so that you can restore your body to calm. However, in our society, we sometimes miss that and we think we're in the parasympathetic, but we're not. Or we rationalize our trauma and say, I shouldn't feel that way, but you do feel that way. So with embodiment, we pay attention to the body, which is why I talk about trauma and the fact that I can't do any trauma work now without embodiment because it isn't just all in your head, it's in your body. As example shown by animals, you can literally YouTube this, like impala being chased by the tiger, and you'll see how immobility is the freeze response. So animals do this instinctively in the wild. They discharge their compressed energy from their near-death experience that's triggered, and then they don't have PTSD. They don't fear going back to grazing in the field after. And this is shown by when the animal is almost caught, you'll see that it's kind of like plain dead, or it looks dead, but it's still breathing. And so the predator will like kind of back off or run away because they don't want to eat something that's dead. And then the animal will shake, will literally shake, get up, and then run off. And that's what's called immobilization. They do that naturally and instinctively. We as humans do not do that. Our bodies do, but then we rationally tell ourselves, calm down, don't do that, don't shake, don't move. Sometimes we even do this with medical care. I was reading the book by Peter Levine, Waking the Tiger, which is a really good book. And he mentioned how he was hit by a car, and he's a trauma researcher. So he knew all about this immobilization process. He was hit by a car walking in a crosswalk, and he knew enough to tell the ambulance EMTs, do not suppress me or hold me. Like, obviously he had to be kept safe, but he said, don't give me anything to stop my shaking. My body needs to shake. So we definitely need trauma-informed people in life. We need trauma-informed medical care and trauma-informed teachers now. This is why I'm so glad you guys are here, because this is so good for you and for the world to know about trauma. So when your body responds, if you've ever given birth, you might have shooken before entering into transition, or shaken. I think I said it wrong. So yeah, that's all part of the body's way of releasing trauma. Also, I like to explain it as like when you're in that freeze mode or trauma mode, it's like the gas and the brake are on at the same time. And all of that energy is what's revving through your body. And if you don't expel that through immobilization, it gets stored in our body in the connective tissue called fascia. And that leads to all sorts of different ailments and disease. So why embodiment? What is it? Basically, embodiment is just coming back to the body. It's the process of becoming fully alive to the signals of our body. It's the full human experience. And most of us, unfortunately, don't really live inside our bodies. We live in our minds, and our minds tell us all sorts of distorted things. Like, I'm not good enough or smart enough, or I should be able to do that. I hear that all the time with my clients. I should be able to do this. I'm like, okay, well, who tells you that? You should. And contrary to what you might believe, you're not defective and you're not broken. You might need to do things differently, and you might need to add some things to your life, but you are not broken as a person. You weren't born this way. So as a child born into this world, you knew you had needs and you knew you had worth, or else you wouldn't have cried for those needs to be met. So you were born perfect. We were born, and then somehow the world gets a hold of us and we start to believe differently, or we start to believe we have to earn that love somehow. And that's usually with our caregivers from 0 to 5, which I talk about in my group coaching program, which you'll hear more about at the end of this. But how do you experience your body today? That's a really good question to ask. How do I experience my body today? Am I at war with my body? Do I feel good in my body sometimes, but sometimes I don't? How do you experience your body? How do you reset your body? This is how embodiment can help, is that you can actually calm your sympathetic nervous system through embodiment practices to come back to the parasympathetic, rest and digest. How do you do that? Spend time in nature. Get outside. If you're having some anxiety or some, distorted thinking, get outside and start labeling the things that you see. You can do that inside if you're working and you're like, okay, I see a chair, I see a desk, because that grounds you in the present moment. But nature has a very, very beautiful way of doing that. Get a massage, practice meditation, deep abdominal breathing from the diaphragm. So breathing in for 4, holding it at the top, and then breathing out for 6. That literally will help reset your nervous system. It's probably one of the best ones you can do. I also like repetitive prayer. If you are religious or have a higher power, focusing on a certain word that soothes you or calms you is also a really good way to imprint on how your body feels when you say this word. So usually, using that within meditation as well helps to calm the body, and then imprinting on that word. Playing with animals or children, and then practicing yoga or any of these other qigong or tai chi, and nonlinear movement, which is what I teach in my groups and with my clients. I teach nonlinear movement, how to pay attention to your body and give your body space and time to process what it feels without even knowing or having to know what you're doing. So it's really intentional time to get out of your head and into your body. All right, this is the path through. So I just mentioned it. Another technique you can do is if you're really triggered, go into the shower and notice the pulsing water on your body very consciously, and then pay attention to how it feels. And then say it back to yourself. This is my head. This is my arm. I feel the water on my back. And you're really paying attention to the present moment and the sensations you feel in your body. And that brings you back to your body. It also helps you to become more alive and also less numb to things. And I say it welcomes the soul back. It's this embodiment work is basically soul retrieval. I love it so much. There's also meridian tapping points you can do, which are simply just parts of the body that respond to the nervous system. So looking up those on YouTube, you can look up Donna Eden's daily energy routine. I love her stuff. Breath work, like we just did, the 4 in and then 6 out, diaphragmatic breathing, meditation apps, and then nonlinear movement, which I will be teaching in all teaching breath work and nonlinear movement in my group practice. My group online women's embodiment groups. Our ability to heal. If you're here, this is so great for you to listen to, because if you get anything out of this today, it's that your body has the ability to heal and wants you to heal. So if you're re-experiencing trauma, anxiety, depression, any of that sort of thing, it's because your body wants you to heal. And when we pay attention to those things in a non-judgmental, loving way, our body can resolve that trauma and build resilience and actually help you to feel more alive and authentic. So unfortunately, trauma resolved is a gift, fortunately and unfortunately. No one wants to experience trauma, but we all do. But when you resolve it, it is truly a gift of authenticity and wholeness. As a result, your mind and your body will become more integrated. And that is also part of the healing. So asking yourself, what's happening in my body today? What memories come up when I quiet my mind and I listen? What sensations have I been feeling lately in my body? And what do I want to move out? Are all really, really great questions to start your embodiment practice. And really just acknowledging your need to heal is always the first step. And you're acknowledging your worthiness to heal. Every single person is worthy of this. And anytime you spend time and money on yourself and your healing, you are healing everybody around you. It seeps out to our families, to our children, to our workplace, to the world at large, which is why this work is so important, because our world needs it now more than ever. When we heal others around us. And it's all about really calling the body back and learning anew with this integration of mind, body, and soul. So here are my recommendations. The Wisdom of Trauma documentary by Gabor Mate. I talked about him earlier. He just came out with a new book. It's a monster right here, but I'm going to read it. This documentary is on thewisdomoftrauma.org, and you just have to put in a donation, and I think they email you a link to watch it. So it's not on any streaming device, but it is highly recommended by me. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. I always have trouble saying his name. That's kind of like the Bible of trauma work, trauma and the body work. Chasing the Tiger by Peter Levine was really easily digestible. I loved it. I loved it more than The Body Keeps the Score because it was shorter and easier for me to digest, at least. And I have ADHD, so that says something. Lastly, if you want to work with me, I have a course called Create Your Calm that you can do on your own. I'll put a link, and I always forget to do this. I'll put a link in the chat. So it will take you to my website where you can click courses or work with me, and then courses, you'll see Create Your Calm. And then my Embodied Women Coaching Program, which I'm really excited for, starting on September 26th. I'm really wanting to get a group of women together to heal together, because I think healing can happen in exponential amounts of time, like just a shorter amount of time, and I think in an exponential way, that's what I meant to say, when we heal with others. So if you're feeling that call or that pull and you have any other questions about it, let me know. I'll hop on a call with you. I really, really want to get the right people into this group program. We're going to be discussing a lot about our bodies as women, our cycles. I'm pulling in experts on the subject because I'm not an expert in the feminine cycle, but I'm pulling in April Davis, who is. She's going to share all about our hormones and our cycles and how we can work with them. Instead of working like men, we can work like women, which is what we always should have been able to do. So yeah, we're going to be talking about our bodies. We're going to be talking about family of origin, inner child healing. We're also going to be talking about how to, identify trauma and then go into release. And we're going to be doing it in a way that's very loving, non-judgmental, and healing. And hopefully at the end of 8 weeks, you will feel like you have your soul back, and that you will feel like you have a whole new set of coping skills in order to show up to life in the way that you want to live it, that you'll feel more love and sensuality even in your body and for your body. So that is the goal of the program, as well as just meeting the needs of the people in the group. So let me know if you have any questions about that. I'm going to stop the share. Now is time for a Q&A if you have any questions. But yeah, I always say radical acceptance is accepting what is instead of what I want it to be. And that's where a large amount of healing starts, is when we just say, okay, I'm just going to accept that I have these feelings or I have these reactions to things. And instead of shitting on myself or saying that I shouldn't feel this way, or I should be able to handle all these things, I'm going to radically accept that my body is showing up for me right now to tell me to heal, to help me heal. And so my anxiety now is a messenger. My panic is a messenger. I do not villainize it. I say, okay, I don't want this, but I'm going to use it. What is it showing me today that I need to learn or unlearn about my body or my beliefs? So that is a little bit about radical acceptance, but we will also go way more into it in the group coaching program, which will be on Mondays at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that will be meeting every week until I think it's like November 21st. I know it's a commitment, but if you are looking to heal and you're looking to grow, this is a really great way to do that in a group setting. And it's also a really good price point as well. If you're someone that wants to work one-on-one, I can also do that as well. But I know there's a lot of women out there that need healing, that can't really afford working with a therapist or a coach. This is a really good way to afford it. So I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to put the link in here in the chat in case you want to reserve your spot. Also, here's a code for 10% off because you joined me today. And let me know if you have any questions right now. If you don't want to speak it out, it's okay. You can type it in the chat too. Any questions on what I said? Any questions on anything, actually? Someone asked questions last week about parenting, which was totally fine. This is your time to ask. And if you don't, that's fine too. So yeah, my group coaching program, I also have the embodied woman coaching package that I do one-on-one with women. If that's something that you're interested in, you really just feel like you need some one-on-one. That's also an 8-week package as well, with a lot more time one-on-one with me, as well as lots of other tools like my course, nonlinear movement workbook that I created, 90-minute sessions with me, and then check-ins with me during the weeks we're not meeting. So that's the embodied woman coaching package. And then the embodied woman coaching group therapy is the one that's launching September 26th. So let me know. You guys can always email me, mft@gmail.com, if any of this resonates and you're like, yes, I need to work with her. Nope, actually I forgot. Don't use that one. Chrissy Powers, I forgot the S. Chrissy Powers, mft@gmail.com. Erica, it's okay. It took me so much to join this live, but I'm so glad I did. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really just want to create content now for women like you. Because it's way more satisfying and uplifting, and yeah. So thank you so much for that feedback. It's really good to hear. And also I'll send a replay to everybody that joined or gave me their email for this. So you will also get a replay if you missed the beginning of it. Pause.